Today on the Topic Show, Trump's Truth Social stock is down 74% in the past 6 months. Trump versus Kamala, top donors, and no spoilers, but yeah, big tech is on her side. 90-year-old man attacked for having Trump signs on his property. Kmart's last big store is closing. Ford to make a manual Mustang with a V8 as long as possible. Bank of America to open 165 more branches by 2026. And milk being recalled to the most egregious, disgusting thing possible contamination with almonds. All of that and much more on The Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Tech guy see their founder at least twice a day. Guy says quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Kmart's last big store closing. What once was an icon is slowly but surely dying. And yes, I am still looking for a Kmart sign. I do pay finder's fees. If you know anyone who has a large 6-foot Kmart sign that lights up, like it came from the outdoor of the building, I would especially appreciate it. One of those things where they're not gone yet, technically, but I can't help but think this is a very high probability they'll belong truly on my wall of defunct businesses behind me. Granted, I do have a little price sign from there, so perhaps something a little premature. Now, this comes to us thanks to the New York Post, and there you can see the iconic Kmart logo. This is specifically by Richard Polina, who's right over there, saying, quote, "One of America's most iconic retail chains, Kmart, set to close last full-size store in the U.S. They say that the store is located in New York. Oddly enough, it says it's one of two just remaining chains that once spanned 2,000 stores before the rise of Walmart and Amazon. It looks like October 20th will be the last day it will be around for that location. The real estate investment trust, Kimco Realty Corp., which owns the shopping center that houses the Bremerton location, also confirmed the store would be closing. There you can see, remember the big Kmart, which, yeah, those used to be ginormous. Or as Trump would probably say, huge, the biggest store, they had all the stuff, they had the blue light deals, who would forget? You get lobster for basically nothing. Probably just said that effect if you were to ask Trump about Kmart. And I mean, that was a brilliant marketing in terms of giving people, to this day, one of the most revolutionary things in retail. Such a simple idea, but huge results. And this might age me a bit if you've never heard of it. They used to have these blue light deals where periodically throughout the day, they'd have little blue lights in the store light up, and they would have, hey, attention all shop. Oh man, gonna breaks my heart remembering, attention Kmart shoppers, and they'd have a specific deal. So it would give you an additional reason to stick around the store, and inevitably you buy more stuff and add more crap you don't need to your cart. And they give you a little bit more discount on one of their items they're trying to push. And it was brilliant. Now, granted the nostalgia, I'll probably read a little bit about, about the actual kind of history. They say, quote, the store's location has some boost in sales thanks to the Martha Stewart partnership in the 90s. They also know that, although that, went away several years ago, this Kmart location has 90,000 square feet, geez Louise. Now, they know that Eddie Lampard, the billionaire hedge fund manager, who at one point compared to Warren Buffett for his investment acumen, I don't know about that, bought up Kmart's debt and took control of the company in 2003, guiding it out of bankruptcy and engineering its merger with Sears, which, yeah, then he started to give loans to himself and kind of sold off all the remaining assets. So I'm not sure how many people really like Eddie. Granted, some argue that it was the only possible person on the planet who actually loaned the company any capital at all. But still, yeah. Martha Stewart used to be a big deal back in the day. Ooh, sorry. I should have given you a visual warning. There's a picture of her. It's not quite pleasant. Then you can see some of the Martha Stewart Everyday as like the brand that they had. They had the towels. Now, they also know that. Here's what I want to show. Kind of the OG, the original Kmart logos way back in the day. Granted, it was founded by good old Kresge when he founded his company in 1899, which fun business fact, although you can only see that 189. The price behind me on the Kmart pricing sign is $18.99 for that reason. You see that quote, Kmart's origins date back to 1899 when Sebastian Spearing Kresge founded the first store, a modest 5 and dime store in Detroit. According to Transco Investment Holding Company, currently owns Kmart. Kresge quickly expanded to reach over the next decade under the name SS Kresge Company. By 1912, having 85 stores around the U.S., the first official Kmart opened in Garden City, Michigan in 1962. The same year, 17 additional stores around the U.S. opened, which, yeah, it grew so much in terms of the company's portfolio. By 1977, the whole company was renamed from SS Kresge to Kmart Corporation. By the 90s, they had 2,300 stores with 350,000 employees. But yeah, it looks like they went bankrupt in 2002. Again, they emerged in 2005 with Sears. And yeah, it's one of those things where I really don't see a turnaround coming. Unfortunately, a lot of good people will be out of a job. It's because, again, when it comes to retail, Walmart just wiped the floor with all the competition. Because e-commerce, Amazon just knocked out of the park even more. So very unfortunate news to have one of these once iconic retail establishments, going the way of the dodo, and hopefully they're able to find some gainful employment at one of the competitors. Now, I don't think there would be any startups to compete with them, just because, again, grocery stores in general have a 2% profit margin, which is also known as trash in terms of business. Very, very difficult to actually keep a company in business at 2% profit margins. But let me know the company. Do you think they'll ever be? You look at history. Every company that comes does eventually go. Do you think, actually good? Do you think Walmart will ever go the way of Kmart, and eventually Walmart will not be around someday? I'm pretty skeptical about that, just because they've shown a pretty good track record of being adaptable. But let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news: you have Ford to make a manual Mustang with a V8 as long as possible, as Jim Farley continues to somewhat impress me. I'm a little disappointed by their EV sales. Lost, was it $32,000 per EV Q2? So it's or no, is that worse than that? 132,000. Yeah, it's not great. Rivian is only losing 34,000 per EV. They're all doing pretty bad except for Tesla. They do make a profit. Granted, it took many years to do so. And Ford, I would say, bar none, won the pony war. The Camaros, I used to love the Camaro, and great car to drive. Had a lot of fun with that. But GM's shot themselves in the foot several times by discontinuing the Camaro brand, then reviving it, discontinuing it. And yeah, lately GM said, you're going to kill this awesome piece of engineering. And the Camaro's going to come back apparently as a two-door EV SUV for some bastardized reason, pardon the French. And with the Dodge Challenger, very iconic, but again, has come and go. Same with the Charger throughout the years. They've discontinued it, brought it back. The new Charger is going to be an EV or a straight six twin turbo, which straight six is great for BMW. They perfected that platform across decades of research development. But you're buying a Challenger and a Charger for a Hemi. You're buying it for the V8, let's be honest. A couple people do buy the V6 for reasons, but you're getting it for the Hemi, the V8, and the stick shift. But they've all acquiesced. But one company stands above the rest, that is Ford, or some people call it Ford. And I think you can definitively say they won the pony war. Mustang is still being made in America. It still has 3 pedals. All cars should have by default, I would argue. Now, this comes to us thanks to AutoDrive. Specifically, they say, quote, Ford is holding its firm on its commitment to make a manual V8 Mustang despite the industry's bar to shift to EVs. While global regulations push for zero emission targets, Ford plans to keep producing internal combustion engines, particularly the V8, as long as there's demand. Well, unquote, let's be honest, or until the government kneecaps them, as the government is always doing more and more, unfortunately. They say, quote, Ford's global chief engineer, Lori Translau, told the Drive, quote, Jim Farley has mentioned, and we agree, we are doubling down on our V8 as long as we can possibly sell V8, we are going to. The commitment stands out from all automakers, including General Motors, Mercedes-Benz, and Volvo, have already started to reconsider their plans for full EVs by 2030, which Volvo officially has said, yeah, we're going to put the brakes on that, pun intended, because, yeah, the demand for EVs, the adoption rate is dramatically dropping, with one of the biggest growing segments being hybrids, especially in the US. Another great example of business ineptitudes of General Motors. General Motors makes one hybrid right now, the Corvette, which is a bastardization in and of itself. But yeah, when it comes to hybrids growing exponentially, one of the few companies actually read the room right is Toyota, where they invested more than any other company in terms of hybrid technologies the past 36 months. And it's going to pay off, I suspect, in dividends. Oh, I'm not sure if they actually pay dividends to their shareholders, but you know what I'm trying to say. Here's actually a better picture of the good old Mustang, which is growing on me. If I had unlimited budget, I'd definitely have a Mustang in my garage. They look pretty darn good, and can't beat that good visceral V8. Granted, if I had unlimited budget, I'd get a 2004, 2005 Ford GT. That's even more iconic, obviously, the rear engine and everything. Now, they say, quote, Ford's decision to keep the V8 Mustang roaring is fully buoyed by the continued success of models like the Mustang Dark Horse, featuring a 5.0-liter V8 and Mustang GTD, equipped with a 5.2-liter supercharged V8 that turns out over 800 horsepower. Both models continue to draw significant customer interest, giving Ford more reason to keep ICE Mustangs in production. Now, the automaker is also committed to preserving the manual transmission, another hallmark of Mustang's performance legacy. Transfero reaffirmed Ford's dedication, saying, quote, "We've constantly looked at our customers' wants and make sure we do everything we can do to deliver what they want. As long as the consumers desire a manual transmission, there's a market for it. We'll continue to offer it." Ford's approach even mirrors other performance brands such as Bugatti, which produces a V12, and Bugatti, which remains committed to V16. Well, I would say more Pagani because they actually do have a stick shift V12, which is iconic. That's really, really neat. And yeah, the only thing I'm surprised here is why doesn't Ford lean into the customization more like Porsche? Porsche does a ridiculous good job listening to consumers and letting you customize everything from the little color of the stitching to your custom paint job to, I'm pretty sure there's this like potentially like 800 options for a Porsche 911. I'm only partially exaggerating, but I think it's, again, everyone daydreams. Every once in a while I look at, well, what if I win that big deal? What if I close a big project? And I always looked at, the 911. I mean, if you want a custom color that only you could have, very similar to Rolls Royce, Porsche would charge you $40,000, which, I mean, I couldn't possibly comprehend or fathom spending a Honda Civic, or no, the cost of basically 2 used Honda Civic SIs on just paint. But I'm surprised. I think there's a market for Ford Mustang owners who would pay more of a premium to have additional customization. I know there is some, but not to the boutique extent that something like Rolls Royce or Porsche does. And there are some people who still love American muscle and I think have disposable income that would go for that. I know it's not the biggest sample size or biggest number of prospective clients, but that just seems like an easy way to boost profits for the jump portfolio of Ford. But let me know, do you think that'd be a good idea in terms of adding to the custom options? And then, would you or have you ever owned a manual transmission V8? And if not, why not? Personally, I wish I had. Unfortunately had only inline four engines thus far, though I do love my little Honda Civic Si. I do someday aspire to own a good old V8 with a stick shift. Many would argue all cars should be by default. But as I always say, let me know in the comments your thoughts, because as always, I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news, you have Bank of America to open 165 more branches by 2026, even as Warren Buffett sold millions of shares of stock, and more and more people are shopping online or doing banking online. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, the only company that I joke in terms of having more locations than McDonald's or Starbucks is something like a Chase, because those blue-roofed banks seem to be, you can't throw a brick without hitting any of them. And subsequently pretty useless to actually hit them with a brick because, high security, and also they barely have any cash in there anyway these days. But, I'm actually pretty shocked that Bank of America is going to open up additional locations. Now, this comes to us thanks to Reuters. Specifically, Saeed Azir, who's a writer over there, say, quote, Bank of America to open more than 125 new branches by the end of 2026. Now, they say that their stock's not doing, getting enough financial advice. It's about $40 per share, not doing great. Now, they say that, quote, banks have been redesigning their branches to emphasize in-person sales of products such as mortgages and investments instead of the routine teller transactions. The shift came as digital banking services proliferated, reducing the need for physical locations. Bank of America will expand to 40 new sites this year, and the bank said in a statement it will open branches in Louisville, Kentucky on Monday and have 5 in the city by the end of the year. In addition to the District of Columbia, the second largest U.S. lender currently has its presence in 38 states, and will expand to 41 by 2026, which, yeah, I was going to say, actually, given the vast, nearly unlimited fiscal resources that they have at Bank of America, I'm actually surprised they're not already in all 50. Because again, a lot of these locations, a lot of these banks, there's a lot of standardizations. You buy things, more things you buy in bulk, the better price per unit you get. It's not too crazy to just copy paste these bank locations throughout the U.S. Now they say that, quote, large rival JP Morgan, which again is JP Morgan Chase, operates in 48 states and has the largest branch network. Plans to open 500 more by 2027. So even they are starting to reverse course. They say Bank of America financial centers account for 80% of new checking accounts, with the rest opened online, said Aaron Levine, who's Bank of America's head of consumer bank and president of preferred lending. Despite the expansion plans, the lender's branch footprint has fallen to 3,800 sites versus the more than 4,800 sites in 2014. Bank has spent $5 billion retooling its financial centers in the last decade, adding more than 100 branches over the last 2 years, focusing on broader banking, lending, and mortgage services. I see that consumer banking is the biggest contributor to Bank of America's earnings, accounting for nearly 38% 8% of second quarter net income, which that's pretty penny to say the least. So the interest, I mean, there's certain things you do, well, maybe I'm old-fashioned, there's certain things you do prefer to do in person, well, also for security reasons, but yeah, I mean, the only thing that makes me hesitant, again, none of this financial advice, is Warren Buffett decreasing how much of he actually has in Bank of America, because, as some might say, the Oracle of Omaha doesn't know all, but nearly all. And that's why I'm a little surprised to see reading that Bank of America is actually expanding this year. But let me know in the comments. I mean, I've also heard, a lot of horror stories anecdotally, but a couple good ones about Bank of America in general. So let me know. Do you have the best reputation? Do you actually like Bank of America? Do you think they'll be expanding to a place near you? And would you ever use them? Let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Sorry. Going on to the culture part of the podcast, you have Trump stock down 74% in the past 6 months, which is also terrible. Specifically, it's down 74.36%. Granted, by the time this video is rendered and uploaded, it will change, because that's what the stock market does. But yeah, and again, none of this is financial advice. So it's probably one of the few times where I did not invest, and actually I'm glad I did not invest in a company, because yeah, when you look at their financial statements and the concepts, I mean, it's one of those things where it's good and bad. Thanks to Elon Musk and also Chris with Rumble.com, you have not a lot, but you have a couple alternatives where you do have free speech. Where, again, the thing of Truth Social, not only did you hear directly from Donald Trump, in terms of you're the first one to hear what he has to say in social media, but it's also a great stalwart of all the, sorry, a little too much coffee. I don't know, there's no such thing as too much coffee or caffeine. I should rephrase that. But in all seriousness, it's one of the few sites that actually stand up for the First Amendment, and there's a compelling reason to use it. But again, now that those alternatives are growing more and more, there's not really that exclusivity that Truth Social once had. And also, it's all instances where Trump is starting to repost on Twitter, and he goes on so many podcasts that are also on YouTube and Rumble. It's not really that exclusive. So, and it's lost the big allure that was driving people there. When I first heard about Truth Social, the only people I knew who had it were the people who were diehard Trump fans. And they loved the platform. And the number one reason that they told me they signed up is because, one, Trump owned it, and two, they wanted to hear directly from Trump faster than any other network or social media platform. But yeah, in terms of the financial stability of the company, I mean, it's just not there. Now, pulling up the actual stock trend, you can see currently trading for $12.80 per share. And there you can see that little time. Yeah, it looks like the peaked at around $66.22 per share. And that was March 27th. And it's going down. Actually, no, it looks like the peak overall was $79.38. And yeah, it's been crashing ever since. So it's not technically at the all-time low. It looks like the all-time low is $11.75 per share. Dividend yield is nothing, which is a little insulting. They don't even pay dividends. Now, if we go, let's see here, trying to see look at their finances. Jeez Louise. So the quarterly finances, oh man, this is where it really gets rough. Let's just start from December 2023. The revenue was $751,000, which, I mean, if I had that much personal income, that'd be astronomical. That's like a student loan and Porsche money. But yeah, it's one of those things where for a business, especially when you have so much money being spent on people and infrastructure, that's not much. So December 2023, that fiscal quarter 4, the revenue was $751,000, but they lost $9.18 million. Now, Q1, the revenue, how's that even possible? It only went up, and again, for a normal person, that's a lot of money. It went up by only $20 million. The revenue went up to $770,000, but the net income, oh my gosh, down $326 million. And then last quarter, I guess is 2024 Q2, revenue came in at $836,000, which, again, the revenue is increasing not fast enough. And the net income is negative $16.37 million. So throughout all this, it's always been negative, which, granted, a lot of tech companies have for years, but they usually have a path towards viability and profitability. And this revenue is so infinitesimal. I mean, the good news is if you're a business and you want to advertise on the platform, it should basically, I don't know how to say it's free, but in terms of the cost, they would probably be hungry for sales. Their overhead isn't that much. According to this little infographic, they only have 36 employees. So not having to spend a lot of money on overhead in terms of employee or talent relative to, I mean, they're not spending 16 or $300 million on income on the individual actual income of the folks. And the revenue is actually looks like down 29%. Operating expenses up 297%. I mean, I guess the good news is it looks like the tax rate is zero because they're losing money. Which, granted, if you lose money, you don't pay taxes. But yeah, it is just all these numbers are just terribly concerning. And I mean, their overhead basically better be next to nothing. Again, they're spending so much money here. And again, the number one reason that people had for the platform was Trump. And it's not there anymore. Don't get me wrong, he's still on the platform, he's still posted like first, but it's not exclusive anymore. And for a while, they had the exclusivity contract where he had to post there. And there are some people who just repost him for him on X Twitter. But again, people want to hear straight from the Donald. And it really wasn't that much of a threat. Now, as soon as Trump himself started a threat to the business, as soon as Trump himself started to post on X Twitter, that's where a lot of people just, I think, stopped even bothering to log in to Truth Social. So again, I think that's the number one reason why there's any viability of it as a business. And again, Trump long term, nothing against the guy in terms of he is getting older. So that is another limiting factor in terms of this company needs to make a profit. I'm not sure how he transitions this business plan to maybe he wants his sons to take over in terms of being like the head of posting exclusively on the platform. But I mean, Don Jr. has a show on Rumble.com. I'm trying to see if how this company could make a profit, how it could turn this around, how it could grow. And if I were to buy stock these days to get enough financial advice, there's too much threats, not enough opportunity for Truth Social at the moment. And I mean, it'd be hilarious by the time this video is rendered upload, the stock like triple or something. The odds of that are infinitesimal. That'd be hilarious. Except for speculative buying or people who just love Trump and buy it just because they like Trump, I don't see how they can actually turn this ship around. Now, we also have this article from Yahoo Tech, one of the original OG search engines, specifically Rurico, he's a writer over there, saying, quote, Trump media stock sinks to another new low even as Trump holds onto shares, which, again, he's multiple times, he has said he does not want to sell it, which he also kind of has to because he's the largest, he owns the majority of the stock. So if you're to sell it, good old supply versus demand, the more he sells, the less the stock will be worth per share. And for a while, he was locked up. He did not have, like many of these businesses, when they have an IPO, there's certain limitations on executives and founders of the company. They're given stock as options, but there's a special period in which they're not allowed to sell it yet. Now, that period has expired recently, and Trump though he can now technically sell it, he has affirmed and continually said that he does not want to. Now, here's a little picture of Trump right there. They say, quote, after the lockup period on Donald Trump's shares, the company that owns former president's social site, Truth Social, fell even more. Shares fell 8%, trading to $12.44 earlier this week. The tipping came from the company's capitalization to $2.5 billion, and nearly 80% plunged into high-flying days after the aftermath of the NASDAQ debut on March 26th. Despite speculation, Trump himself said earlier he has absolutely no plans to sell stock, which he'd probably say something. Oh, actually, he has a quote right here. And he says, quote, the reason I build it is because I don't want to have my voice shut down, unquote. Although he'd probably extend that quote to say, my voice is the best around. Nothing will ever take it down. Take it away, Rick Astley. But in all seriousness, now that Elon Musk has bought Twitter, I don't think he'll ever really be censored on X Twitter. So I think that, again, that main reason that really gave value to Truth Social is no longer there. You also have Rumble.com, which I don't think Trump is active as an individual, like his own channel on Rumble.com, which is also a great way to turn into this show because segments aren't deleted when the YouTube doesn't like it. But it's one of those instances where, again, if Elon didn't buy X Twitter, I think it'd be much more of a compelling business reason to use Truth Social. But again, I don't see it going around. He also continued to say, quote, a lot of people think my shares, that I will sell them, they're worth billions, but I don't think I'll sell my shares. I don't need the money, unquote. Now, he actually holds 144.75 million shares of Trump Media, or about 60% of the company's outstanding stock. In regulatory filing in June, Trump Media cited Trump's divestment for the company as one of the top risks to the business. True, because again, if you were to sell it, that price would crash like Black Rifle coffee stock or like a Boeing airplane, which dark humor and financial jokes. But yeah, the stock just continues to be viciously destroyed. Now, interestingly enough, going to the top comments here, I wonder what people are saying. Go down here. Oh. I say one of the first ones comes from Mike from Melanie saying, quote, any serious investor looking at the stock is leaving it completely alone. There's nothing in any statement that gives the impression it will do anything but continue to trend down to zero. And can't help but agree with Mike there. That got 82 up votes or up thumbs up and 0 thumbs down. Let's see. Chaz says, quote, the company does not take it anywhere near its operating costs are. The stock should be worth noting. 56 up votes. Because again, it still has less than $1 million of revenue, which again, I commend any business that actually makes any profit or even just gets above, any revenue. It is extremely difficult starting a business, especially in that competitive area. But again, that is so small. It doesn't account. Their expenses are too high. It just boils down to, as cliche as simplistic as it is, expenses being too high and sales being too low. They need to, I don't know who's on their sales program or who's trying to sell ads on that platform, but they need to have those people working overtime, trying to sell advertisements and premium features to everyone out there, trying to work with businesses and products to get on that platform. Because again, they need to fix that ASAP, like yesterday. Now, scrolling down more and more, you have workers saying, quote, the shares he manages to offload will just take the tanking price even more. The day after the election, he'll start trying to sell the shares and it'll become a penny stock, getting 14 upvotes. See here. A couple contrarian statements. You have Will saying, quote, he's Shash. It's Sean Connery. He's passed away, unfortunately, but he's Shash. Connery. I'm kidding, it's a typo, but he meant to say, he says he doesn't need the money, yet he continually asking people to send him money to pay his legal fees, unquote, getting 13 likes. See here. David says the last paragraph has it right. The stock is worth 0, getting 20 upvotes or thumbs up. Which again, it's hard to, hard to really give a compelling reason why it's worth anything at all, except the fact that it does have the branding, which is always worth something. And you have the user base, which is worth something else. See, the data is key. Again, data is one of the most valuable things a business owns. But besides those two things, again, now that Trump's not exclusively posting on it, I have to kind of agree. I don't see how the stock goes up. And I feel bad for a lot of folks who, like, again, I think a lot of people bought the stock just because they believe in Trump. They want to support him. And I just feel bad because I don't see them getting their money. I don't think they're going to make a profit. I think they're just going to lose it all, to be frank. But let me know in the comments. Again, there's a lot of competition when it comes to social media. Granted, in terms of like freedom of speech, there's realistically 3 platforms. You do have True Social, but then again, you have the 800-pound gorilla in the room. You have Elon's with X Twitter, and then you have Rumble.com. So again, I think it is one of like a trifecta, but still, it's just. And then if you own a business, would you advertise on True Social? Would you pay to have your product or your company's logo or services advertised on there to try to increase your sales? Let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have a 90-year-old man attacked by 4 men for having Trump signs on his own property, going viral on social media, and another example of disgusting political intolerance. And fascinatingly enough, it's not always, but seems to be one side of the political aisle. Now this comes to us thanks to lives of TikTok and the good old X Twitter, which she says, quote, new 90-year-old man in Turlock, California has reportedly been attacked by 4 men over Trump signs he displayed on his property. The man allegedly threw rocks at a 90-year-old as they damaged his Trump signs. What is this? Reason number 9,758,455,003 not to live in California. Is somewhat ironic to keep saying they're the land of tolerance and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, unless you're, religiously affiliated or someone who's maybe libertarian or right-leaning, or heaven forbid, having a Trump sign on your property. Yeah, although of all the disgrace by the far leftists in terms of, stealing and, taking Trump signs, there's nothing more hilarious than that one instance where someone had a Trump sign on their lawn and they actually electrified it, so that the vandal who went on their private property and tried to steal the sign, they were subsequently electrocuted and jumped like 3 feet in the air. That was oddly amusing. Again, not advice in terms of condoning or that kind of yada stuff. So again, stay on the good old YouTube. Although, better way to tune into the show is a good old rumble.com. Also check me out on the X Twitter. Hashtag The Topping Show. Now, without too much further ado, let me go ahead and let's see here. One of the signs says, "You can to save our country, vote Trump." Yeah, I don't think that's kind of it's not a bad message. It's kind of a cliche political message. I don't think it's too controversial at all. If you're going to show on private property, you should be able to put whatever sign you want. Now, without too much further ado. That's another sign you're a Trump supporter these days, or so it seems. He has an American flag on his property as well. This is a rare thing.
Years old, and they call my son because I am voting for Trump, trying hard. Which it was really loud. I thought it was right outside my door. So there yelling, but I didn't know if that was like, a couple of kids were having an argument or what it was. By the time I got my shoes on and got out here, they were gone.
Also has angel statues on his property. Tries to destroy those too while they were at it. Another one just says Trump fans 2024. Just disgusting. And went pretty well. I got about 1 million views as well as 22. Let's make it 23. No, I thought it'd be the one final one to get to 23,000, but it's still 22,000 likes. The first comments coming from American Papa Bear saying, quote, liberals are the most hateful people I've ever met. Shame on them. Gave 1,000 likes. Paul Zupa says, quote, the unhinged left is only getting more violent because Harris and the Democrats refuse to stop their violent rhetoric, getting 529 likes. Which, yeah, it's about 5 hours after the Trump assassination attempt, where everyone from Obama to Biden, or the intern who has Biden's account on X Twitter, who said we need to call for unification and, bring down the temperature, don't be so, politically bombastic with the rhetoric. And then right after that, they went back to calling Trump, Hitler, the greatest threat to democracy. I think Biden has more than 50 of those quotes on his profile. Also have Boom Boom Jenkins saying, quote, how is that the violence against Republicans 99% of the time? Yeah, the Democrats blame the political violence on Republicans, getting 646 likes, which it's kind of cliche to say, but it really is the pot calling the kettle black. Or I forget the philosopher who said you lose me at the moment. Let me know in the comments if you remember. But he says you basically accuse your opponents of what you yourself are doing. That seems to be what's happening more and more. And Mason Birch saying Party of Love and Tolerance strikes again, getting 429 likes. We also have, let's see here, Emerald Apple said, how come we never see the opposite happening? Oh, that's right, because MAGA people aren't violent, getting 194 likes. Which, again, I'm not saying it never happened. I don't think it's a 0% of the time. It might be 1 or 2, but just overwhelming evidence. What, have you ever seen that? I haven't. You also have Salty Goat saying, quote, please come do this in Texas. Nothing would make me happier than to see this in my yard. There are antler hats by the mailbox. Please be a sport and put them on. Getting 425 likes. So again, not good legal advice in terms of, again, even in Texas, or some might argue the great country of Texas, you're not legally allowed to defend your personal property with deadly force. You're only allowed to use deadly force if your life is threatened, though, again, I'm not a lawyer. Though I do have a suit. Thrown down more and more. Faye says 90 years old. Someone needs to find these men. Getting 156 likes. Here, this is good. Enric N says the left is full out evil and hatred. This picture of Bender from Futurama when he was turned into a wooden robot. It says leftists, the whole world must learn to accept our peaceful ways by force. They got 25 likes. Let's see. Mike Max is bad news here in California. California is Democrat and California sucks, getting 62 likes. The right answer says the political violence continues to be one-sided, getting 26 likes. The right guy says why are leftists so violent, getting 59 likes. Well, I think it is a contributing factor that most of their media that they consume is one-sided, and they continue to just have the media tell them Trump is a threat to democracy, he's the biggest threat of our life. They're just driving that message to their home more and more and more. I can't but think it probably is on track with kind of becoming more and more unhinged. So interesting. Let's see. Yeah, not too many, if any, contrarian signs. Let's see here. Oh, I should say signs. I should say comments right here. Hockey Mom says liberals are demons, getting 18 likes. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's your own personal property. They still feel they have the right to go on their damaged property. In this case, allegedly attack a man too by throwing rocks at him in the signs. And just not just mentally vacuous, but morally vacuous as well, which these days, it's sad to say, it's not too surprising. I mean, this news, it went viral, but again, we've seen many instances before them stealing signs. I mean, really destroying signage. Just not too surprising that they're seemingly taking it one step further. And let me know anecdotally. I mean, how many have you seen a Biden Harris sign? It's funny. You actually hear some of the signs where they just, I guess, even one might argue it's good recycling, but they have the Biden Harris signs. They just basically put on a little tape mark and put the little Vance name on there too. Not Vance Walls, but let me know in the comments because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part of the podcast, you have Trump versus Kamala, top 20 donors. Let's dive in and see who is supporting who. Now, specifically, these are contributors from people who work at the companies. So these donations aren't actually coming from the businesses themselves. Might have to do another analysis later. Now, this comes just thanks to someone on the good old X Twitter named The Rabbit Hole, specifically hashtag The Rabbit Hole 84, which I would think that's a perfect hat tip to 1984, the most brilliant book of all time, specifically written by George Orwell, which is a great novel, great, but it's also quite horrifying, a little disappointing to find out how much modern society has become very much like that book. Now, no surprising, pretty much all the employees at Big Tech support Kamala, which, again, no surprise, during the last election, it was like 99% of donations from the Google went to Democrats, with less than 1% Republicans and a little bit to Libertarians. So there's not too many surprises on the list, but let's go and read them down. Now, we have Donald Trump, his top one coming from, again, these are from employees who work in businesses. You have American Airlines at 134,174, and it looks like this information is from Quiver Quantitative. That's specific, and this is top donor contributions to Harris Biden and Trump's political principal campaign committees in the 2024 election cycle as of September 2024. Again, Trump's biggest one is American Airlines at 134,174, which, I mean, makes sense also when you consider their headquarters in the great state, or some would argue the great country of Texas. You also have employees at Walmart coming at $83,908, Boeing at $82,761, Lockheed Martin at $69,552, which, again, is pretty interesting because, again, I mean, many people do know Boeing from the commercial airline, but a big part of the portfolio of Boeing is, defense contracting. And Lockheed Martin, over 85% of their entire sales every year or income come from government contracts. They're the largest defense contractor on the planet. And historically speaking, Trump was the only president in my lifetime where he did not start any new wars, which thereby decreased the demand for a lot of defense products. So it is interesting that a lot of the employees who work at defense companies are actually still supporting him. We also have United Airlines chipping in to Trump at $67,742, FedEx at $61,901, Wells Fargo at $59,451, Johnson & Johnson $57,499, Brown & Brown at $56,087, Southwest Airlines at $55,829. It seems like, interestingly enough, a lot of defense on Trump's side, ironically. Northrop Grumman coming in there. Again, they're one of the largest aerospace designers of all time and manufacturers, getting $52,032. Raytheon, which I think is best known for play video games, Call of Duty. You might reminisce at the Javelin missile, which is a very unique design, but Raytheon makes a lot of missiles for the U.S. military. They come in at $43,368. Costco at $43,370. Integer at $42,000. Actually, it might be easier just going to round. You also have Morgan Stanley at $41,000. Microsoft. So you have some Microsoft employees that donating to Trump. I was pretty. That was a little bit of a curveball for me. Granted, they have many offices throughout the whole U.S., but pretty interesting. Now, Microsoft came in at $41,000. GEO Group at $41,000. Delta Airlines at $37,000. General Motors at $32,000. And Home Depot at $31,000, which, again, the GM one, that's another great example of in terms of, I mean, the UAW has been Democrat for decades. It's, where they donate all their money. But in terms of people who actually assemble the cars, work in the offices, a lot of the individuals are very much pro-Trump. I mean, one of the biggest, most hilarious ironies in business history has to be United Auto Workers getting Biden elected. So their dollars that these union members are paying into, well, it was used to basically destroy their jobs because Biden is making EVs the de facto and making gas engines illegal with de facto bans with tailpipe emission fleet standards and also subsidies. But there's a reason all these governments are, totalitarianism and control. But there's a reason all these manufacturers are trying to make more and more EVs, which for unions are not good because inherently EVs require less manual labor to create. They also, overall have less components. So there's not much demand for lower skilled labor to actually make an EV vehicle. And yeah, a lot of those traditional jobs are going to be transformed into software engineering jobs. And other, some people might not be able to have that skill set that transfers to another one. So there's going to be less. Not only is there going to be less jobs, but there's less profit. And in many instances, you do have profit sharing with the automotive manufacturers. And I mean, you look at the traditional legacy automotive companies. You got General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, which became Stellantis. Well, those companies, they basically perfected the V8 internal combustion engine. It is a feat of engineering. I still love the Mustang. The Mustang with a stick shift in V8, hard to beat that. But yeah, that's where most of the profit comes from. Basically, trucks, another big profit center. All the gas, all the like. Look at Ford. They lost $132,000 per EV sold Q2. That's terrible. Tesla makes money in EVs, but it took them years. They're also not unionized. Employees get stock and incentives to work. Now, going to the Kamala, you're not going to be surprised. And look at the delta in terms of employee donations. So again, the largest company, or the company that had the most employees donating specifically to a candidate, you had Trump at $134,000 coming from American airline employees. Juxtapose that with Google. Google employees donated $1.464 million to Kamala Harris. And yeah, that should scare the living shit out of everyone, part of the French, because yeah, they basically control the internet, have a monopoly on it, manipulate data. I mean, just a couple months ago, they were busted for manipulating headlines for Kamala Harris to sponsor ads, where they basically rewrote major news headlines to make it seem like they were approving Kamala, making her look good, when quite the antithesis was the fact. They were not singing her praises at all. Very few do. Now, coming in number 2 is Microsoft at $743,000. So talk about a discrepancy. So Microsoft gave to both people at Microsoft donated to both political campaigns. $41,000 to Trump, $743,000 to Kamala. That's pretty one-sided. Now I also have Brown and Brown at $324,000, Johnson and Johnson at $239,000. Look at all these tech companies. Apple at $225,000, Oracle at $218,000, Wells Fargo, looks like they actually both have Wells Fargo, $170,000 or $169,000. Nvidia at $169,000, Boeing at $137,000. So you have another Boeing. Morgan Stanley $136,000, Netflix $125,000, J.P. Morgan, which again J.P. Morgan Chase, that's $117,000. Integer at $117,000. So you got another copy. So Integer was $42,000 for Trump, $117,000 to Kamala. Accenture $113,000, Adobe $98,000, Amazon $98,000, Facebook or the Facebook $97,000, Broadcom is $93,000, Pfizer $93,000. You have no reason to tune into the show on Rumble. You cannot criticize those companies on here because yeah, one of the few videos where I just brought up a lawsuit, didn't get my opinion, just brought up the lawsuit. Yeah, that video was taken down. I was given a hard warning on my channel. You also have Disney, no surprise there, $91,000 for Kamala. So you have a couple overlaps, although in terms really just in name only, the percentage donations are really lopsided for Kamala. Trying to see a single instance. I mean, I guess employees at Walmart. Again, this is the top 20, but yeah, employees of Walmart very much Trump, very not at all in terms of the top donations to Kamala. And I think to me, the only thing that really stood out was the defense contractors really supporting Trump. That because again, there's a dip in demand when he is in office. Now, granted, there's so much political turmoil and global conflict. I think no matter who wins the upcoming election, I think, again, not financial advice, but I do think the demand for defense products will continue to increase over the next couple of years, just because, again, the whole world seems to be on fire. Well, I don't know, partially because the U.S. has gone so soft. So I think they're going to be secure in terms of their businesses for the foreseeable future, whoever gets elected. But to me, that was one of the biggest curveballs. Now, Johnson & Johnson was another one where they donated to both campaigns, which makes sense. Both of them helped to make money. In terms of the airlines, I was pretty surprised. Another curveball went over to Trump. Now, not surprised at all. Big tech all went to Kamala, basically. Yeah, that Google, that's, not only censorship, but also just unprecedented amount of campaign dollars being donated there. And again, it is kind of funny. People think, it's funny, just like, look at the numbers in terms of a lot of the big money for all these companies. Like, the top, again, this almost double Kamala. When you look at, the smallest of the 20 donations was $31,000 from employees of Home Depot to Trump. The smallest for her was Disney, employees of Disney actually, at $91,000. That was another thing that kind of caught my eye as well. It went pretty viral today. Got 27 million views on the good old X Twitter and 17,000 likes. One of the first ones comes from Kyle Thompson saying, quote, the idea that Google and Microsoft, while donating that kind of money, aren't manipulating users on platforms to vote for where their money is comical. Getting $2,700. The rabbit hole says Gemini indicated otherwise, getting 348 likes, which is their AI. Yeah, never forget, it was a couple weeks ago. It turned out that the people who put those spy things in their home, ridiculous. The Alexa, which, apologies if you have one of those pieces of trash in your home. I hope I didn't accidentally, inadvertently, cause it to activate. But it's kind of creepy when you ask that little brain box, what are some reasons to vote for Trump? It said, oh yeah, we don't give political opinions. There's no reason. They asked, what's the reason to vote for Kamala? They said because she is a strong black woman. That was the reason they said, which is also kind of, Kamala should be insulted by that because I'm sure she's proud of accomplishments she's done. Oh yeah, she is proud of the Inflation Reduction Act, which, like all political bills, ironically had the opposite effect in terms of causing record inflation. And Republicans do that too with their bills as well. But yeah, in terms of if you were to ask the AI why you vote for someone, yeah, that was interesting. Now they did fix that, or they quote unquote fixed it after people complained, but it shows you the big inherent bias that it has. You also have Phantom Platypus, which that's gotta be the best username we've heard all week. That person says support American First companies, getting 137 likes. DVD said Google said hold my beer, getting 82 likes, which yeah, that is insane. Again, these employees, the top one for Trump is American Airlines at $134,000. Top one for Kamala is Google at $1.4 million. It's kind of funny to see the juxtaposition of kind of a lot of these things change throughout our lifetimes. There's when I was a kid, the cliche used to be like big business would always support the Republicans back in the day. The Democrats are the party of peace, and big Republicans are big war, big pharma. Interesting to see how much things have changed throughout our lifetimes. Scrolling down more and more, you have Livercat Media TM saying, quote, shows you who needs to know who, and the most Google is backing her heavily, but financially doesn't matter. Google controls the information and knowledge. They control what's seen. They aided her. The search engine scandal ads, remember, getting 64 likes. ZNO says this chart perfectly depicts why you should vote for Donald Trump, getting 298 likes. Scrolling down more and more. McManus says, ironic how Google and Microsoft are up front, right? The two largest tech censors in history, getting 121 likes. A couple of memes of Boeing being clowns. Let's see. Stormy Sunset says, hold up. Lockheed Martin and Raytheon donated to Trump. I would think some massive amount would be donated to Harris since she's willing to go to keep the wars going. What am I missing? Getting 7 likes. I'm curious why people are responding to her. And a lot of people just brought up the point that it's employees who work there, not the actual businesses themselves, which I'm sure we'll probably dive into that another date. Let me know if that'd be something you'd be interested in terms of seeing, which businesses are donating the most. And granted, with individuals, there is a cap on how much you can individually contribute directly to a candidate. There's not if you go to something like a super PAC, but when it comes to businesses donating, that's usually where they do, because again, for a business, those limitations on the political campaign distributions are pretty minuscule. Yeah, a couple curveballs, and let me know what was your, in terms of kind of looking at the chart, what was the biggest outlier where you're pretty shocked in terms of really employees from that company are donating to this candidate? Let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now going over to the business blunder of the day, you have a milk being recalled for the worst offense possible. May contain almonds, which is a viscerally disgusting thing. There's a time and place for almonds, and it's not in milk. Now this is, interestingly enough, brought to us thanks to NJ.com. They say, quote, milk recall. Do not drink milk sold in 27 states. Return for an immediate refund. You can see one of those little creepy looking logos. Now, it looks like it's HP Hood LLC, which, of all the companies I heard for dairy-based products, I never thought, that almost sounds more like a hedge fund. HP Hood LLC. Or like a Hewlett-Packard laptop developed for Chicago or something like that. Now, they say, quote, HP Hood LLC is recalling 96-ounce containers of lacted whole milk, fat-free milk, 2% milk, 1% milk, 2% calcium-enriched milk. This is specifically thanks to Catherine Rodriguez, who's a writer over there. saying, quote, several types of lactate milk are being recalled in multiple U.S. states, including New Jersey. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the reason for the recall is that the units of milk may contain trace amounts of almond, which is an undeclared item, which belongs nowhere near milk, because it's not milk. Now they say, quote, company behind the recall, HP Hood LLC, is recalling all 96-ounce containers. Now, silver lining of the situation, no one's been, as of this reporting, no one's been visually, hospitalized, or there's been no illnesses from this, though perhaps it's so unpalatable someone may have thrown up because it's visually disgusting. I can understand that. Now, they say that manufacturer discovered the issue during routine maintenance programs that discovered trace amounts of almond products. There you can see their weird-looking milk containers. Now, it looks like in terms of was this shipped to you, in terms of where this went across the U.S., they say that, quote, the units affected by the recall include the codes 41-4109P2. Again, the recall code is 51-4109P2, and that is labeled on specific containers that were shipped to the following states between September 5th and 18th, 2024. Specifically, it is Colorado, Alabama, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Illinois, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Minnesota, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota again, Mississippi, North Carolina, Nebraska, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, the Exodus, unfortunately, Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. Now they say, quote, consumers who have these milk products in their refrigerators are encouraged to return them of their place of purchase for a full exchange or refund. Consumers who have additional questions or concerns, if you have a lot of time on your hand, you can call Hood Consumer Affairs at 800-242-2423, and you can complain about your milk, apparently. Again, 800-242-2423, which, when it comes to certain products, I debate what the actual recall percentage is in terms of, like, is even 1% of the people who bought this product going to take the time to go back to the original place of purchase and try to, return it, which, again, it's not good for the company because, again, they're going to reimburse the resellers for that return so they don't take a loss at the actual stores. So, I mean, it's not good because the stores are paying, employee to deal with that, return, and there's a cost to that. Also kind of decreases and chisels away at their brand reputation. But again, the silver lining situation is no one's gotten sick from this. Thankfully, it's not deadly. So again, this is a very mild recall, so to say. But still, there's some things that don't belong in milk or have nothing to do with milk. Just put that notice out. I know you get me started on the viscerally disgusted almond milk, but yeah, it's pretty disgusting, and I have to say that it's certainly the recall of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment is a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.